When I started Sesame Street in 1969, the world was a different place. It was, America was a different place. It was, Sesame Street came out of the Civil Rights Movement. It came out of SDS and Students for a Democratic Society. We were going to change the world. We were going to eliminate racism. We were going to close the education. America was very idealistic. Even President Johnson was going to create the Great Society, which is what prompted Head Start and seeing children in a new way, and making sure that they had very important, good early childhood education. So I remember when I first saw Sesame Street, I was a student at Carnegie Mellon University, and I walked in, and there was James Earl on the television. James Earl Jones was reciting the alphabet, A, B. And the letters are flashing over his head. I can't believe this. But when they cut to the street was when I was really flipped out, because there's Susan and Gloria, this African-American couple, talking to me from an area that looked like many of the neighborhoods I had been raised in the South Bronx. I had never seen anything like this on television. And it had special meaning for me because I watched a lot of television as a kid and in the 50s and wondered, how come I never saw anybody who looked like me? And the next question was, how was I going to contribute to a society that didn't see me? Because I felt invisible in it. So Sesame Street came on, they had these African-American characters. And because of activism, Mexican Americans on the West Coast said, well, if you have African characters for your target audience, which was underserved African American children, you should have Latino characters. Well, so it was because of activism that I got cast on the show, that people demanded this, that they wanted it. And I got cast. Emilio Delgado and I got cast on the show, and we became to the African American children, to the Latino children what Susan and Gordon were to the African American children. And we did such a good job with it. A lot of people think we're really married. We're not. We were traveling. Yeah, we do like each other. We were traveling together, and a woman came up to me and said how wonderful it was that her children should see real love on television. I told her, I said, I'm sorry, we're not really married. She said, no. As long as you really love each other. So anyway, so that was the wonderful times that Sesame Street was, that happened in, and I have to comment on how now society is the exact opposite. I mean, in those days, if you were compassionate, it was considered a good trait. Now, if you're compassionate, something's wrong with you, or you're weak. You're not looking out for yourself. So that is that's the mood I think that we're trying to stop. I can't imagine the racial relations from '69 to now. I could not imagine how horrible they would be. In my wildest nightmares, because I was young and I assumed all these people are going to die, and we already saw the light. We're not going to go not see the light. Once you know, you're not going to forget it. But apparently it's like we've gone into this slumber, so that our country's in this terrible situation. So that's a reason I think that certainly Hillary should prevail. She has always been interested in children and families. First time I met her, she was First Lady. Actually still wore skirts at that time. But then she changed to pants. It was funny. She had a suit. It was a matching suit, clearly. She had pants to go with it. And we were on a panel for PBS. And it was, trying to convince the federal government as the First Lady to support PBS. And she came out and she faced all the reporters and she said, couldn't we as a society simply decide that children are too young to be sold product on television? Yeah. I mean, she said, we don't have to do tests and see if it's going to work. Just decide. Because it's the right thing to do, and we know it's the right thing to do. And I thought even at that time that she was way ahead. There was something about that statement that was way ahead of her times. And then she worked with Marion Wright Edelman for the Children's Defense Fund for many years. And then recently I saw her in the Bronx. I'm going to drop a name now. The other Sonia from the Bronx, Supreme Court Justice Sonia. We're just like that. And, but anyway, we do get together to work on the creation of a Bronx Children's Museum every year. And of course, Hillary's obviously there on the invitation of Sotomayor. But she came, and it wasn't a photo op, or there wasn't any. But Hillary came to give the support. She actually remembered me and asked me about Big Bird because of that time that we were on this panel together. So she's always had sort of the interest of children and their early education at heart. It's one of the most important things I could talk about. Kids who don't get good early educations have a very hard time catching up. I am an example of it. I was a genius in the South Bronx. Genius. All I had to do was show up. So little was expected of me. I used to do my nails in my desk, answer questions, and get great grades. Then I got accepted to the High School of Performing Arts, the same school. So all of a sudden, I'm middle-class kids. I could not compete with these kids. I didn't know how to debate. I didn't know what a noun was. I had never written anything. I didn't have their social skills. And you spend the rest of your time really trying to catch up. I was loud and I demanded help for the things, for my failings. But to this day, I think that you end up always struggling to catch up. And even the justice says she was in a very difficult, rigorous Catholic school in the Bronx, and she was at the top of her class. I was hanging out with the girlfriends in the park, putting on eyeliner. She was a good student, and when she got to Princeton, she had to hone up on her writing skills. And if you read any of her, she's so quotable. She says, "If I don't know about something, it's because of my background, not because I'm stupid." Because actually, I'll just tell you this quick story. I love the story about her. She was at Princeton, and she found a letter from a very prestigious sorority, and they wanted her to give them $3 for a pin. So she threw it away. Her friend comes in and says, "She threw this away." "Oh, it's a scam. They just want me to give them $3 so they can give me a pin, some sort of pin. I'm not gonna give them $3. It was like the most prestigious, intellectual, I forgot the name of the sorority, of the Ivy League schools. And, that's something that, it just wasn't in her life. But that doesn't mean she wasn't smart. So I think now that we are so data crazy, we cram kids with information, we want them to memorize stuff, we're less interested in them thinking. So I think that early childhood education certainly encourages that more. I'll tell you a little bit about my parents. My mother was a seamstress and my father was a laborer. And I don't mind saying this because I wrote about it in my memoir, so I with everything. It was a household of domestic violence, and we moved a lot, and it was always a whole 3-act play going on. But I look back at my parents, and I think that my mother was the strongest of the two, because she was always insisting that we get into the system. She was so proud of being a member of the International Ladies Foundation.
Yeah.
She did not want to do piecework, which is when you bring home a load of shirts and you get 2 cents on the seam. If you just shoulder one seam, that's piecework. She thought she was so above that because she was a union member. She was happy to show that card. My father was a laborer and intimidated by the system. He was perfectly happy to go from paycheck to paycheck. She was the one who said, no, you have to get into a union. You have to get into a local. You have to pay taxes so you could get Social Security. And at the end of his life, he said, your mom was right about that. Because, I have a little something here. I could die peacefully. I'd give it into the society, and now I'm. So I use that as an example of getting people to vote in order to become a part of the system, because especially Latin people, We were invisible in those days. We are not invisible now. I was just as I said, I was in Florida, and I was going to go to a Puerto Rican restaurant to give my little speech. And the driver, we go by, and he says, "There it is." And I'm like, "No, that's Cuban." "There it is." No, Argentinian." "There it is." "Oh, okay, that's it." But there were like 8 more. There was like a Nicaraguan, so and all of this diversity is good for the country. I mean, obviously, it's morally good. But there's another reason. It's good because different people bring different ideas to the table. And an example is that I work for the Bronx River Alliance in my old neighborhood. And the river connects the richest community, Westchester, one of the richest communities in America, with the poorest, the South Bronx, which is where I'm from. But everybody wants, the task is to clean the river, okay? So when we get meetings, well, you can imagine, you have matrons from Westchester, and guys with their Orvis fly fishing outfits all along, but you also get down to the South Bronx, single mothers, ex-gang members, but everybody's looking at this problem in a different way, and it creates a tension, and you come up with better solutions. If everybody's the same in America, we're all going to look at the problem like this. And that's it. It's like I think we're like leading the country with one hand tied behind your back. If you're excluding, the intellect of women or the intellect of people who will, look at things from a different perspective. So obviously that's, if Hillary does not prevail, we will be in the hands of someone who has no interest in that. Clearly, even with this recent news, he's shown his extremism, the vigilante extremism of coming to a conclusion without getting all the facts, without thinking it through.